Now we'll look at two very common statistical functions used in Excel all the time. The first is count, which is used to count a range of cells that have numbers in them. There's a modification of this count function called count A, which counts the number of cells which have text in them. Key difference. In this video we're going to use the normal count function, which counts cells within a cell range that have numbers in them. So I've scrolled down to the portion of text in the textbook where the instructions for using the count function are. Looks like page 109. And it looks like what I have to do is click on D13, press equal, and then type C. And look at that. I don't have to count, I don't have to type in the entire function name. When I start to type, I get a drop down for functions that start with the letter that I typed. So I'll scroll down to count, see if I can find it. There it is, count. And there's my count A right there. There's a bunch of other count options as well, which you can explore later on your own. We're just going to use count here. And I double click on it to select it. Single click will not work. You have to double click on it. Now that I have the count function preloaded into cell D13, I can select my range, which is denoted by this tooltip right here. So I'm going to select my range, which is D3 through D11, and I can press enter to see my result. The resultant output in cell D13 is 9. That's because there are 9 cells within the cell range that I selected that have numbers in them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's what the count function does, which is very useful if I have a lot of data and I want to see how many categories I have for a particular set, such as in this personal budget scenario. Now let's look at average. What the average is the sum of a range of numbers divided by how many numbers are in that range. This value is commonly used to see where everything is around. If I was to look at all of the different values, what do they average out to? So let's see how we can do that in Excel. I'm going to scroll down to those directions in the textbook on page 110 right here. I'm going to click in cell D14 right next to average spending. This is where our average is going to go. And instead of starting to type it, I'm going to show you another way to access formulas in Excel. You can go up to the Formulas tab in the ribbon, which I have shown here. And where we can find average is within the More Functions option. But notice there's a whole group for logical functions, text functions, date and time functions, lookup and reference functions, math and trig, and then here's more, which has many more areas such as statistical engineering, cube, I'm not sure what that is, informational compatibility, web, etc. So we're going to be in statistical, and then here average is one of the first ones. Notice there's a bunch of other average options which you can explore on your own later. So I'll use the common average function. I single click on it and I get a dialog box like this. I have places for 2 numbers, though I only need 1 number range. To select my first cell range, I'm going to press the collapse button, which is denoted by this straight line and arrow. And then I'm going to select my range, which is D3 through D11. To go back to the dialog box, I'm going to press the expand button, which is on the dialog box to the right. It's denoted by a down arrow. And I can see that my cell range D3 through D11, it's now showing in the number 1 box. And I can see the outputs are all the numbers in the cell range. 1200, 2000, 2500, 1500, 3000, 1500, 1250, 3500, 1500. And it's showing me the computed average right here, which is going to be $1,994.44 roughly. If this number makes sense, I can say okay, and it does make sense because I remember seeing in my range I have a range of annual spending in my categories from $1,200 to $3,500, which should average to about $2,000. So I'll say OK, and I'll see the output of my average. I can double click in the cell to make sure that I entered it correctly, and I did.